have them.
I do know that the Vice Chairman hates Russia, just to make that public. Senator Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Godson, you made the point that the Russians don't always win with their active measures, and you mentioned the period of the 1940s and the 1950s. In your judgment, how successful have the Russians been in the last year in achieving their goal of sowing doubt, polarization, trying to disrupt and cast doubt on the validity of the election, putting aside the issue for the moment of the critical question of whether there was any collusion between any campaign and the Russian effort?
Well, from the information that we have in the public sector and the private sector, I would say that they must be rather pleased with the results of their investment, whatever date they started to develop this campaign. I think, though, however, the fact is that they are seeming to prepare to do the same thing in other campaigns abroad. And so sort of looking at the way they've behaved over the long course of time that they've used active measures, I think they will continue to do this and to reap some benefits from it, unless there is a considerable response from the democratic societies. And at the moment, I would say that our response is too restrained, and that unless they see that there is a cost to this that makes this not a very attractive thing to do, I don't see why they won't continue it. I hope that's responsive.
Thank you. Dr. Rumer, Mr. Watts made the point that the Russians will go after either side, that they're trying to disrupt society, cast doubt on Western democracies. And one largely overlooked part of the Intelligence Committee's the Intelligence Community's report last fall was information in the annex that suggested that Russia Today, which most people view as an organ of the Russian government, was instrumental in trying to advance the protests of Occupy Wall Street. Could you comment on that? And is that an example of Russia working to promote the far left versus the far right that we hear so much about?
Yes, ma'am. It's a perfect example in that Occupy Wall Street was a genuine movement on the left, but it certainly serves the interests of Russian propaganda to play it up as a major challenge, as something representing a major fault line in our society, because it drives the message that the United States is in decline, the United States is in crisis, plays up to audiences at home in Russia and abroad that the United States is not the perfect society, something that they really like to emphasize. So that's an excellent example, and I think it deserves the attention that you, the spotlight that you cast on it. Mr. Watts referred to the minor protests outside our basin in Sirlik, in Turkey. Well, there's another example that there was a protest, but again, it's blown out of all proportions. And as you know, the best propaganda is that which has a grain of truth to it, then gets played up and up and up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.